Howdy, folks. This is Always in Beta, and I am Barb, and this is my second recording. This is week 2. Today's January 7th, 2018. Today, I'm going over what I have learned from Brooke Castillo on weight loss, not overeating, thought management. There's a ton of information out there on why we're fat, and some seems believable, some does not. Brooke Castillo has a take on the subject that is a good fit for me, and I will put a link to her book in the show notes. She's got a book called If I'm So Smart, Why Can't I Lose Weight? You know, the link that I have is to her first edition, and I believe she has updated it with kind of the sciencey part of weight loss. So I'm giving you this link in the show notes as a starter, but you may have to do a little digging. All right, so my purpose in making these videos and doing this video blog, this vlog, is to reinforce in me, in myself, the lessons that are helping me achieve my goals. And I totally feel like I'm getting there. Today, I am summarizing what I've learned from Brooke, and it's a quick summary. It's not exhaustive. If you are seeing this and it's ringing true to you and it seems interesting, check out the Life Coach School podcast, and I will try to remember to put a link for that in the show notes. Or just Google Brooke Castillo. And the yo is 2 L's, like Spanishy. It used to be that we were not all overweight. I'm going to start with Ancel Keys. Ancel Keys, A-N-C-E-L, last name K-E-Y-S. This is a guy who did some research and wasn't completely upfront with us. And his views became public policy, and it led to the low-fat diet craze of the 1980s or whenever that was. So that's one reason why the foods that we eat don't help us to stay normal weight. I personally know that I do this. I overeat when I don't manage my emotions and my thoughts. I use food to escape emotions. I use food to get a dopamine rush. And I've trained myself to eat more than I need. And I have hormones. Lucky me, right? All right, so, I mean, that could be a whole book in itself, and it is, many books, and I'm not going to spend time on that. I'm going to spend time on what I do about it. So first, some vocabulary, understanding hunger versus withdrawal and cravings. Hunger is a sensation. Cravings are a desire for a specific food. Withdrawal is a sensation, either mentally or physically, from, in this case, what I'm talking about is the withdrawal from sugar. Emotions are caused by thoughts. And if that seems really foreign to you, stay tuned. Keep listening. This really reminds me of my sister Abby. So understand hormones to understand hunger. Hunger comes in waves. It comes and goes. If you don't eat right away, your body is going to tap into fat stores for fuel because it's what you have. Insulin, leptin, and ghrelin. Insulin, as you all know, is the hormone that's required to process carbohydrates in our bodies. It also prevents the utilization of fat. So if you have excess insulin, your body cannot access fat stores for fuel, and you will be more hungry. Let's move on to foods. You can use them to balance your hormones. The aim, if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, the aim is to keep your insulin level low. Insulin increases when you eat, and it decreases when you don't eat. It increases more with sugar, flour, and of course liquid sugar is like soda, juice, alcohol, definitely like a sugar bomb and has a more dramatic effect on insulin. Eating little or no sugar or flour equals a drop in insulin. And then if you have increasing time between meals, it lets insulin levels drop and it kind of resensitizes and balances hormones. You can help yourself balance your hormones by eating more vegetables, eating less protein. Protein actually converts to sugar in your body. The process is called gluconeogenesis, and we're not going to get into it. You decrease your grains, that helps balance hormones by eating healthy fats. There's some controversy here, but the kind of generally accepted fats are olive oil, avocado oil, nut oils, and in most cases, butter. Some folks are hesitant about butter because of the saturated fat in butter, but I don't want to get into all that. If you use butter, use a little, I think it's okay. Brooke teaches to avoid anything with flour in it, including nut flours, anything with sugar in it, including natural sugars like honey or agave, anything with trans fats like margarine, partially hydrogenated oils, fried foods, all processed, concentrated, and refined foods like juice, and brace yourself here, smoothies. I know. Even if you make your smoothie at home, it's just one of the things she's not into. She also says don't drink alcohol. Do you want to lose weight? So let's talk a little bit about fat adaptation. I know I'm going through this really quickly, but I'm really just trying to reinforce these ideas in my own head to help me stick to my program. And if you're along for the ride, I'm hoping that it will help you stick to your program too, whatever you decide your program is. And Brooke's rules are Brooke's rules. They're only your rules if you decide they're your rules. Many of them I have decided are my rules. I think we were on fat adaptation. So your body knows how to use naturally occurring foods, like cuts of meat, vegetables, things that grow from the ground, fruits, and grains. Basically, the idea is your body knows how to use naturally occurring foods as opposed to concentrated manufactured foods, which create like a feedback loop of craving and binging. Once you're adapted, you won't feel hungry all the time. So if you now feel like, oh my God, I can't skip a meal because I'm hungry all the time, it's because we have trained ourselves to eat when we aren't hungry. We have trained our bodies to be primarily sugar burners instead of fat burners. And the aim is to access your fat stores when you're hungry. Your main source of food when you're trying to lose weight needs to be your body fat. Fat adapted means being able to go 12 to 16 hours without eating. I've got a section later on that talks about intermittent fasting a little bit, but when you're fat adapted, you're able to go 12 to 16 hours without eating. And it's not like you're starving the whole time. You're just not feeling that hungry because your body is snacking on the fat on your hips or your belly or wherever. And when you think about it, you're already going, you're sleeping at night, and that's a big chunk of the time. So when you're eating this way, your main fuel needs to be your body fat. You need to create a plan that aims to reduce your insulin level. You need to consider your meals, the foods you're eating, the types of foods you're eating, the frequency of when you're eating those, and the amounts, the quantities of when you're eating. You need to be conscious about it and not just kind of mindlessly shoveling food into your mouth. In order to really make sure you're conscious, you need to plan at least 24 hours in advance. You need to write down what you're going to eat, and you need to write down what you ate. When I did this before Thanksgiving, it worked beautifully. When I thought, oh, I don't need to write it down anymore, it stopped working. And then, of course, Thanksgiving came. I would really encourage anybody who's listening to this, who's wanting to lose weight, to plan what you're going to eat 24 hours in advance at least. Write it down, and then write down what you ate. It will help you. Stick to your plan for 2 weeks. Be scientific about it. If you're losing weight the way you want to, then just keep going. You're on track. You're doing great. If you're not losing weight, then you have to ask yourself if you're following the plan. And if you're not following the plan, you need to do some thought work, and that comes later. If you are following your plan, then you need to tweak the plan. You need to stick to your plan exactly. No licks, no bites. So if you get a fudgesicle for your child, don't have some. 0. If you are planning on not drinking alcohol as part of your food plan, then don't drink alcohol. Enough of that. Intermittent fasting. What it does is it gives your body a break from insulin, and it resets your hunger, teaches your body to be fat adapted, and increases insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity is the opposite of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a precursor for diabetes. So insulin sensitivity is a good thing. Recommend books, and it is called The Fast Diet, and I'll put a link in the notes. Using hunger as a tool. When I'm hungry, I can think thoughts like, this is the perfect way for me to feel to reach my goals of weight loss. Hey body, how about having a little nibble off my thighs or my butt? Oh, big butts are high fashion right now, so my belly. Let's see, I'm training myself to resist urges and be the boss of my thinking and acting. These are good thoughts to have as well. I want to burn fat instead of sugar. That's a great thought. I want to keep promises to myself. This has been a major motivating thought for me for my adventures in weight loss. Trusting myself gives me a sense of security. It's good to know you can depend on yourself. I want to train myself to do things that are hard. That's been another big motivator. That's just an example of some thoughts that I think that help me to use hunger as a tool. When I'm hungry, it's like a cue for me to think thoughts like that instead of a cue for me to eat. And that's been a process. Like, that's something you got to train yourself to do. So I've got my goal in mind. I know that I want to, I have a lot of things that I want to do this year. The first thing I'm doing is losing 20 pounds. I'm going to lose it at about 2 pounds a week at that rate. And by about March 10th, I should be finished. And then it's just going to be about maintenance. So now what I need to do is think through some of the things that could get in the way, the obstacles that could get in the way of me reaching my goal. Withdrawal from sugar, from dopamine, from unhelpful thoughts. Sounds strange to say that I could have withdrawal from thoughts, and that's not a medical diagnosis, I don't think. But it is true that if you have a habit of thinking in a particular way and you change that, you may miss your old way of thinking. You're going to kind of automatically go back to it, and you need to kind of rein yourself in and remind yourself of the reasons that you want to think in a new way. Some of the unhelpful thoughts. This sucks. Just this one bite won't matter. I'll start tomorrow. Stuff like that, not going to help you. When you stop buffering with food, everything comes to the surface. So buffering is a word that Brooke Castillo uses. And it is basically, if you're not kind of quenching your emotional, how do I describe buffering? Buffering is doing something right now to make you feel better so that you don't have to deal with why you don't feel well, why you don't feel good, why you don't have good thoughts, why you're not happy. And food is something that we use a lot to kind of satiate our emotional selves. Like I said at the beginning, I definitely use food to escape emotions. And when you stop doing that, all the emotions are right there. They all come to the surface. And that's good news, because then you can deal with them. Something else that can get in the way is habits and cues. So a habit is at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. I have breakfast. And my rules say I'm going to have coffee with cream for breakfast, and I'm not going to have food for breakfast. So if my habit is that I eat breakfast, I'm going to feel hungry at that time, and that could be an obstacle to me sticking with my plan. Cues, maybe you're at your desk, and at 10:30 in the morning every day, the guy with the donuts walks by, and that cue makes you feel like having donuts. So that's definitely an obstacle to be aware of, so that you can come up with a strategy to not have a donut. Social pressure is an obstacle. Some people will hear you're not having breakfast, and they're going to give you a hard time about it, and they're going to tell you breakfast is the most important meal of the day and everything they believe in. And you just need to develop a plan to deal with that obstacle, so that you can stick with your diet plan, with your food plan. Desire. Oh my gosh, desire. Tell you what, desire, that gets in the way. Solving desire. So desire is normal when it's normal. But when it's all jacked up on manufactured high sugar foods, it's not normal. It's a beast. It's a beast that you have to tame. The goal with desire is to reduce the desire for overeating in this case. Then you won't have to use willpower. If you're using willpower, then your reason for losing weight is not strong enough. It's not compelling enough. You need to really think about why you want to lose weight. If you're following along with me in this little weight loss adventure and you're not finding success, it's because your reason for losing weight is not compelling enough. So let's say your reason for losing weight is to be healthy. That's a good reason to lose weight, but for you, if you're not losing weight, if you're still caving and giving into your urges, then for you, it's not the reason that you want to lose weight. Maybe the reason you want to lose weight is so that you will look good in a bikini. And you need to fess up to yourself that that's your reason. Because if that's your true reason, admit it to yourself, and you're operating with that on your conscious, you're going to be a lot more successful. For me, my reason to lose weight, yes, I want to look good. Yes, I want to be healthy, but those are not motivating enough. My reason to lose weight is that I want to do other things in my life. And my weight kind of going up and down has been a distraction. I want to feel comfortable day to day, moment to moment. I'm like a function over fashion kind of person, like feeling good, like feeling comfortable in my body is really important to me. I want to save the world. So that's my reason for losing weight. It may not make sense right now, but if you follow my blog, if I continue to do this and you follow it, you will understand in about a year, it'll all kind of make sense. So stay tuned. All right. I was saying, if you're using willpower, then your reason for losing weight is not compelling enough. Because when your reason is compelling enough, when your reason is strong enough, then it's going to be stronger than all your urges. It's going to be stronger than withdrawal. It's going to be stronger than social pressure. And you're just going to be able to easily say, yeah, I'm just not going to eat that. And you're not going to even need to tap into willpower at all. It's going to be a non-issue. Urges, feelings. You kind of have three choices. You can resist them, you can avoid them, and you can allow them and process them. So we all think we should be happy all the time, but that kind of leads to unhappiness. Brooke has this little spiel she does in some of her lectures where she shows a pie chart, and it's just a circle with a line straight up and down. And she says, we're happy half the time. This is life. You're happy half the time. And the other half the time, you're not happy. And you need to accept that, because if you don't accept that, you're going to be spending some of your happy time being unhappy. And so then it's not 50-50. It's like 60-40. And the 40 is the happy part, because you've been spending some time being unhappy. Which, I kind of have a hard time believing that half of life is not good, because I think that more than half of my life is good. But the point is that we're not really going to be happy all the time. And that's kind of like advertised, There's lots of places where you kind of get the message that if you're doing it right, you're happy all the time. And it's just not true. So when you have negative feelings, if you're avoiding them, then you're doing things like eating to avoid them. Learning how to feel any emotion and not needing to escape with food or other substances or habits, it means that you feel like you can handle anything. Because anything you do, if the worst that can happen is an emotion, you can handle that. Being able to stay present with urges and emotions takes practice. Why stay present with urges and emotions? Because not being present with them is grabbing something to eat so that you don't feel the emotion. It's grabbing a drink so you don't feel the emotion. All urges are created by thoughts. So that means that when I have an urge or a desire, I created that. It's not a fact. It's a thought. It's something that I created. And if I created it, that's good news, because that means I can uncreate it, or I can deal with it and change the way I think. Here's what Brooke says. All urges are created by thoughts, but initially the thoughts are part of an unconscious loop. The best way to make those conscious is to accumulate allowed urges. So the thing that she recommends is a practice where you kind of collect urges. She calls it allowing 100 urges. She has a worksheet on it. She talks about embracing discomfort. She says the misery that we feel when we stop overeating is part of the process and the reason we are overeating in the first place. So she does talk about part of embracing discomfort is that you are going to be uncomfortable when you first start a program like this, when you change your diet, especially if you've been eating a lot of sugar and flour and you've decided in your food plan not to eat sugar and flour. You're going to be withdrawing from that. You may have flu symptoms. You may have headaches, weakness, and dizziness. I did. You're going to have cravings. You're going to have an urge to overeat, an urge to binge, maybe. You might be irritable. I was. You might feel isolation, which was kind of a surprise for me. Like, to see that on the list, that was a surprise. But I think probably where it comes from is if all of your social situations involve food and you're avoiding social situations so that you don't have to be, so you're not confronted with the food part of it, then you're going to feel isolated. That's my guess about why that's on her list. Depression, self-pity, loss, that was another one that I had to think about. And I think it is when you decide that you want to be a different kind of person, you need to kind of say goodbye to the old you. And there's things about the old you like, and you feel like you're going to lose them. But trust me, if you go forward and try to improve yourself, you're going to feel better than you ever felt. Eventually, you will be balanced and you will heal and you will reset and readapt. Once you're fat adapted and you learn how to allow negative emotions, you're going to feel better than you ever have. And even though I kind of fell off the wagon around Thanksgiving time, I definitely feel like these lessons really helped me, and that I've really grown. Allowing negative emotion, just learning how to not respond to an urge has been really helpful for me. Okay, using your prefrontal cortex. So Brooke talks a lot about when you think about what you want without letting temptation pull you, then you make decisions from your higher self. And when you make decisions on the fly, it's like your animal brain is in charge. And when you are making decisions for pleasure, it's like your dopamine brain's in charge. If you want something that is different than what you have now, you need to be the boss of your animal brain and your dopamine brain. Meditation is something that Brooke covers in this program. I get the idea from her podcasts and stuff that she's not big on meditating. I think she's including it here because it's a tool that you can use. I am big on meditating. I love meditating. But let me just give you the summary of what she says. Her perspective is that it's supposed to be uncomfortable and not peaceful, which is kind of fun to hear for me. Because meditating can be really relaxing, but generally speaking, a lot of people, I know that a lot of people say, oh, I can't meditate because my mind's all over the place. The point is to just bring your mind back every time it leaves. Just bring your mind back every time it leaves. And so it can be uncomfortable. And it can be less peaceful than you would think it would be. Brooke says meditating involves sitting and allowing the feelings of urges without judgment. And the better you get at feeling an itch without scratching, the better you will get at allowing an urge to overeat without actually overeating. And that's just kind of paraphrasing what she says. And I have found that personally to be so true. Meditating is watching yourself. It's watching your thoughts. It's important to figure out how to comfort ourselves without depending on external sources. And that's one thing that meditation, I think, can really help with. But I don't think it's required. Let me just say that if your life's not going where you want it to go, you're probably depending on external sources for your pleasure, for your happiness. And if you're listening to this still, I'm guessing that at least one aspect of your life is not going where you want to go, and that is eating. And so you're probably depending on external sources. When you start to consume less artificial pleasures and start rebalancing, you can start to enjoy less intense natural pleasures. So the thing about the artificial pleasures is they're very intense. Like sugar, it's really intense. If you, especially like sugar from a pop or something, and like when you get used to all those intense sugars from kind of artificial or manufactured foods, then when you go to eat something that's natural, that's sweet, it just kind of seems like meh. So you need to retrain yourself. Brooke recommends that you plan for the letdowns, especially at first. She lists things to do to kind of bring pleasure into your life. And they're all external pleasures, so it's a little bit confusing, but I think what she's talking about here is kind of just preparing for the fact that you're going to be in withdrawal and you're going to be struggling and you're going to be really wanting to have little food parties and you've made a decision not to. So do some other nice things for yourself that will help you to get through this time period. Pretty sure that's where she's going with this. And the things she lists are things like taking slow walks in a beautiful setting with animals, reading good books, listening to good podcasts, listen to music that makes you feel good. I think it's just kind of about making a comfy landing spot for you when you come down from all the addicting eating. She also recommends that you spend time appreciating yourself and acknowledging your efforts regularly and to talk nicely to yourself on purpose. It counterbalances all those automatic kind of thoughts of loathing. Don't let yourself beat up on yourself. And I love this part. Always work towards compassion and curiosity rather than self-blame. Like, it doesn't really matter kind of how you got here. Just kind of like notice it and be like, So here's an example. Sitting at the computer with a friend who is not a very big computer user. And every time my friend runs into something that's not working exactly right on the computer, she kind of freaks out, right? But I am more used to using computers. And so when I run into the same kind of problem, I say, let's see why that's not working. And that's kind of how you have to be about yourself when you go through this process. You just kind of have to be curious. Like, let's just look around on the screen of you for a little bit longer and see where we can find the in. Okay. So this is from me, not from Brooke. I think that meditation is a great place to practice forgiving yourself. So it goes kind of along with this, like being curious. Every time you notice that you have followed a thought, like when you sit down to meditate, there's some thing to focus on, right? And your goal is to just focus on that thing. And your thoughts are going to drift around all over the place. And your goal is to just, every time you notice that your thoughts are drifting, just to bring yourself back to that thing you're focusing on. The way I learned it was breathing. So I would focus on my breathing. And every time that I notice that I'm following a thought, then I need to just bring myself back to my breathing. And the thing that people tend to do is get pissed off at themselves for following that thought. And that's just really useless. The thing to do is just to notice it. I've followed a thought. I'm not planning my day. I am not thinking about the mistakes that I made in the past. I'm just focusing on my breathing. So just bring yourself back to your breathing. And so every time you notice that you followed a thought and you're no longer watching your thoughts, just stop, focus on your breathing again, or whatever it is that you've decided to focus on, and then just start again. And just that little act of not reprimanding yourself is a form of forgiveness. And it may seem like a small thing, but it grows into bigger things. And like I said, some of us are really pissed off at ourselves, and it just does me no good to be hanging out with that feeling. It's accomplishing nothing. It feels bad, and it's totally a habit. And I want to feel good, and I want to accomplish stuff, so I need to break that habit. And redirecting myself in my meditation has had a huge effect on my general attitude towards myself and on my attitude towards other people and on my relationships. And that's a story for another time, and we will get there. It's well-being versus pleasure. This is really big. This is basically why I've chosen weight loss as my first goal for 2018. This is exactly what Brooke says. I'm quoting her here. When we're talking about weight loss, one of the examples we use is the difference between overeating for false pleasure and experiencing the well-being of health and a natural weight. When it comes to overeating, there's a cycle of over-desiring, overeating, and overweight that leads to low confidence and low self-esteem. The low self-esteem perpetuates the need for comforting pleasure, and the cycle repeats with over-desiring as an escape from the uncomfortable emotions. So I think that's good stuff right there. When we learn how to feel instead of eat, delay gratification, take full responsibility for our emotion, and plan our food, the cycle is very different. We feel in control. We can manage our eating, our desire, and our body weight precisely And this is what I love right here. It gives us tremendous confidence and self-esteem to then apply those skills to other areas of our life. I love that. I love that so much. I think that's great. Every single thing you do is refined and improved every time you do it. Whether it's overeating to feel better now or delaying gratification to feel better in the long run. So if you're practicing having an urge to eat and eating, you get better at that. If you practice having an urge to eat and deciding to wait, you get better at that. This is a quote again, exactly from Brooke Castillo. It's not simply about being lean and being able to wear the clothes that you want. It's about developing the skill set that will continue your growth and evolving throughout your lifetime. Bottom line is, if things in your life are not going the way that you'd like them to go in, you're probably medicating with some addicting substance or habit. That is the definition of living in false pleasure. Not going to cover that now. Google her. All right, commitment. It has to be epic. Your reasons for losing weight have to be stronger than physical cravings or emotional desire. Future focus, really detailed about what you want. What size do you want to be? What weight do you want to be? How do you want to feel about your body? How do you want to feel about eating? And write all that down. And of course, she has a worksheet on that. I wanted to make sure we had light for this part because it's super important. Thinking. So this is your most powerful tool. And this is, Brooke has pretty much taken lessons she learned from other teachers and synthesized it into this system that she teaches now. Thoughts create feelings. Habitual thoughts create urges and desires, which cause you to overeat. If you want to change your pattern of overeating, you have to become aware of what you're thinking and then change your thinking to thoughts that reduce the desire and urges. So here's an example that she gives. If you think you deserve to eat sweets because eating dessert is normal, then this thought is going to create the desire to eat sweet. You might not even realize that you have this thought as a part of your thinking about normal eating. When you recognize that this is a thought, though, and that this thought is creating your desire to overeat, you can decide to change the thought. Maybe you want to change it to something more like this. Most people think it's normal to eat sweets, but most people are overweight, and I don't want that. So I'm going to believe that I am designed to eat less sugar. There's just all kinds of different thoughts you can have that you can decide to think intentionally. And Brooke has a system for getting to that. She's created this model, which is basically the concepts behind the model are universal. So here it is. Circumstances are fact. I weigh 134 pounds is a circumstance. I am a hot mess because I am so overweight and I weigh 134 pounds is not a circumstance. The only part of that that's a circumstance is the 134 pounds, which, by the way, I have thoughts about that 134 pounds that I'll tell you about in a minute. So you've got circumstances, and then you've got your thoughts. Your thoughts about those circumstances make you feel a certain way, and the way you feel guides your actions, and your actions determine your results. So my circumstance right now, I weigh 134 pounds. My thoughts about that actually in reality are, woohoo! I am doing really well. I'm super happy that I only weigh 134 pounds and I'm moving in the right direction. My feelings when I say those thoughts, when I think those thoughts are great. Like I feel really fantastic that I'm moving in this direction and I feel accomplished and I feel like I can do anything. The actions that those feelings are driving is that I'm going to continue to do what I have planned to do, to eat the foods that I've planned. And the results that are going to follow those actions is that I'm going to be successful and I'm going to lose the weight that I want to lose. So this is what she calls the model. Circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. And I'll put those in the show notes too. If you want things to change, you have to change your thinking. That's just the bottom line. Thought errors are thoughts that create unwanted desires and actions. So some examples of thought errors are eating sweets is part of my life. I will be left out if I don't eat with them. I need to have 3 full meals a day. like that's a thought error, because in actuality, I've been having 2 full meals a day and I've been doing fine. So it's a thought error that I need 3 full meals a day. Another one is that cooking and eating with my family is love. Um, Life would suck without delicious, delicious food. Not loving food is abnormal. Diets are hell. Those are just some examples of things that Brooke Castillo calls thought errors. And she has worksheets for that, of course. She talks about exceptions. So what most people would call cheats or cheating on their diet, she calls them joy eats, and she has a really specific way of dealing with exceptions to the plan. She has you plan them 24 hours in advance, at least. And she has you plan them exactly. So, like, for example, if I've decided not to drink alcohol as part of my diet plan, my food plan, and I want to, on a Friday night, have a drink, that's an exception. That's what she would call a joy eat. And what she would instruct me to do is to plan it 24 hours in advance, plan exactly the drink I'm going to have, exactly the number of drinks I'm going to have, and then she would have me fill out a tedious, powerful worksheet. It's something that she has in her book. Tedious, powerful worksheet after I have that joy eat, or maybe while I'm having it. Truthfully, I've not filled it out, and I have not had a problem with it. But I think it's like the whole program. You do it for 2 weeks, and if it's working, great. If it's not working, then you need to tighten things up. You need to examine what you're doing and why you're doing it. And so for me, if I found that I was having joy eats, what she calls joy eats, and I was not having success, then I think I would need to take a look at that form and probably fill it out. It is really tedious. That's why I didn't want to do it. Just being real with you folks. We're coming into the home stretch. Only 1% of the people who lose weight will keep it off. That's kind of shocking. However, since I have been a bit of a yo-yo dieter, I guess that makes sense. The reason is because of conditioning and environment. And I suppose there's other reasons too, but I think our thinking is the main deal. This is a quote from Brooke. In order for you to be the one who makes it and is truly free of the struggle, you will have to go through the fire of self-connection and release buffering. This will go against your deepest instincts and to seek pleasure and avoid pain. It's about learning how to decrease desire and not control yourself. And I love that it's about decreasing desire as opposed to trying to control yourself, because willpower has its limits. And being a person who's constantly trying to control myself doesn't sound like fun. I like being free and easy. So I'm working on my thinking so that I can break away from just having to deal with it. I just want to get to the point where I walk into a room with a bunch of sweet treats and a bunch of savory delights, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really interested. I ate a while ago, or I'm not ready to eat yet because I'm not really hungry. Or I'm hungry, but that food doesn't make me feel good, so I'm just not going to eat it. Something like that. I want it to be pretty much of a non-issue because I want to direct my energy to other things, like saving the world. It's much more important. So I'm getting through this as fast as I can, and if you're along with me, I wish you the best thoughts, the most supportive thoughts that you can generate. So that's it for today. I will see you in my food log. Bye.